In answer to a request from an old friend, John Thompson, from the California era in the 60s, great artist and spiritual researcher, to somehow address the situation that's going on today, well, in so many parts of the world, but particularly in Iran, wherever there's tumult, and as a kind of extension of the poem that came down from the high and low places, I'm going to continue with two more poems from the Chronicles of Akhira, Timetable 1 and The Few with Elegant Manners. Timetable 1, all the historical pantomimes that spelled out subtitles in fractured rhymes under the movie that unrolled forwards or backwards were resolved in a blink by the spark of the falling swords as they clanged into the tree trunk at the end of time to signal the cutoff point of the nonsensical pantomime. A large round table in a large square hall where men in uniform stood before their fall and unrolled a map of the world laid flat and passed a pencil from one hand, fat and pudgy with excess of pork in their diet, to another to draw outlines in a universal riot of borders and frontiers and nationalities crazed, then shook hands and sniffed importantly, leaving the peasantry dazed for decades in hemmed-in contraptions of death that counted off heartbeats and charged rent for each breath. Kaisers and kings and presidents and Führers, shoulder to shoulder under portraits of ancestors in a chandeliered hall in Vienna, Austria, an old world country with shelves full of china and invisible cobwebs behind beer mugs and plates, and visible dust on the map of new states as they left the table to the drawing room cigar, as flames caught its edges and began the scar that ran its wound through the human heart, separating mankind into one cubbyholed part next to another, like several square pigeon coops set on the globe as it turned slowly eastward in its cloud-lined robe. The life of this world is just a series of skeletons dancing in the dark. The life of this world is a series of skeleton keys opening different doors. The few with elegant manners. These again are those appearing on the plane of the final rising, of the final recognition of our Lord, and the final judgment, and the final karma, the final crisis, the final consequence. These are words given by John in his note and request on the first poem that I posted from this little collection. The few with elegant manners. The few with elegant manners came as if alighting from horses. They stepped down and gathered folds of radiance around them as their feet hit the ground, which showed no footprint below them, for it was not solid ground beneath them. The footprints in dirt were for those who saw it as gross and solid beneath them. They went on, straight back to their places, and stood patiently waiting, but their waiting was bird flight, wings in the wind, all the flurry of wingtips that ever flew in the world down below, fanned now in the air of their waiting. Their faces were moons, assembled on cloudless horizons. Their eyelids were shields drawn down over inward gazes. Their hands rested at their sides, relaxed and pulsing. No terror shook them, as promised. No last-minute griefs or regrets. No sudden anxieties to go back to do something differently. They cast no shadows as the sun bore down upon them, shaded by the throne that stood immaterially before them. These were the chosen ones.